The Golden State Warriors are back in the win column. Certain individuals who I love on the roster played. I got Kylen Mills back. The sun is shining. Let's break it all down. Good day for Dub Nation and hopefully for Locked On Warriors. It's next.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professional, licensed, and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/locked on NBA. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Kylen, welcome back. Missed you. Glad you're here. How are you? And your first reaction to the Golden State Warriors, now 6-1 at home after their first blowout victory of the year.
Good to be back with you. Doing well. Feeling great today. And Dub Nation should be feeling great after just a dominant win by the Golden State Warriors over the Spurs last night. I mean, the first thing I'm sure that we're going to talk about, that we got to talk about, is the Jordan Poole performance. I mean, how much of a difference did it make putting him into that starting rotation? A lot of fans are now saying that they think this should be a permanent thing. I'm very curious. Okay, now I'm already going to get off on a tangent like 2 seconds into the episode, but I'm very curious what your take is on that, because I actually said this last season that I didn't hate Jordan Poole in the starting lineup in place of Klay Thompson, but I don't know. I'm very on the fence about this, but what do you think putting Jordan Poole in the starting lineup does for him? Do you think that would potentially continue to spark the scoring from him?
Well, you and I last year were broaching the idea of Klay Thompson taking on that Manu Ginobili role where, look, you're still finishing games. You're still one of the vitally important pieces of the team, but you come off the bench to help that second unit. I love the idea, but why don't we hear from Steve Kerr in terms of whether or not that could be a reality?
Because that is what happens when Jordan's out there. Is that something you have to look at all?
In terms of starting him?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not something I'm thinking about. Our starting five with Klay has been really, really good this year. I think the bigger thing is finding the right combinations off the bench.
Yeah, I was on with our boy Larry Kruger last night. I think there's a lot of people that want Jordan Poole off to start, but Steve Kerr wants nothing to do with it. He was asked on 95.7 The Game, the Warriors flagship station, about that, and scoffed at the idea of Klay coming off the bench. So regardless of whether or not we like the idea, it's not going to happen.
You never know. Maybe, he'll give in on his stubbornness. I kind of like the idea. I don't hate it. I mean, if the switch makes Jordan Poole produce like he did last night, then I feel like it has to be something worth considering. And I'm shocked that Kerr would scoff at that. Now, I understand what Klay Thompson means to the team and, what a legend he is. And the starting rotation itself is done well. Like, I get it. But at the same time, like, Klay Thompson has not been playing great. The second unit needs more veteran presence. And I think that Klay Thompson's strong suit right now is his defense. And that's, something that especially the second unit could certainly use help with. And I think Klay Thompson's looked pretty good on defense. And again, just if starting jump starts Jordan Poole the way he played last night, like, I don't know. I like the idea, but sadly, I agree. I heard Steve Kerr's comments last night. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't know what it would take for him to get a change of heart, but at least while Klay is, resting on some of these back-to-backs, we'll get to see it. And, Jordan Poole was just fantastic last night. And one thing I want to say about Jordan Poole is that not only he shot well from three, I think he went 50% from beyond the arc, but he's at his best when he plays aggressive. And that's something I think he's been lacking lately, is just playing with that, extra layer of confidence and aggression in attacking the basket. I think he led the team go at getting to the line. He went 5 for 6 from the free throw line, it looks like, which is a little bit lower than his normal clip of 90+%.
Yeah.
But I think he's at his best when he's attacking the basket, when he's playing really aggressive, and when he's playing with a lot of confidence. And that's exactly what we saw last night, in addition to, shots falling fairly well from three. So love what we saw from Jordan Poole. Also, he was a team best plus 33, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with his scoring. But, I don't think he looked like as much of a liability on defense as we've seen lately. I thought the defense was solid. So, I think hats off to him for his performance. That's the number one thing that stood out for me.
He was on fire. You mentioned every stat that should be mentioned in terms of his shooting, his plus minus. That's plus 33 is astronomical. That is incredible. I'm not overlooked. I have no disagreement with the notion of Jordan Poole starting. But I'm also not that worried about him going back to the bench because we saw this last year, right? He started, approximately the first half of the year because Klay Thompson was not playing. And then when Klay came, Jordan Poole was relegated as their sixth man, but we never really saw a drop off. I personally don't think, and this is just an opinion, but I don't think that him starting last night was necessarily the reason for him being so successful. I think it's more of what you said. He was just very aggressive. He didn't look out of control, contrary to how he's looked most of the season. He looked like he was doing what he wanted to do when he wasn't trying to force anything. What I was really encouraged about last night, I mean, there's a lot of things to be happy about.
Yeah.
But to me, I think the second unit is established. Now, look, it's the Spurs. All right. This is not a great team. They had a hot start, but now they're coming back to earth as expected. But the Golden State Warriors, and I really, really hope Steve Kerr saw the same thing I did. Please, Steve. Which is that the Warriors have their second unit. And Kylen, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, because when I saw Jordan Poole, when I saw Moses Moody, welcome back to the Golden State Warriors, when I saw Jonathan Kuminga, who's actually playing real minutes, when we saw Anthony Lamb, who I'm sold on, I like the kid, and when we saw JaMychal Green, welcome back to the Golden State Warriors as well. He was DNP for a few games. That 5-man rotation as your second unit is it. I think the Warriors found their second unit. Now it's just a matter of giving them time. I'm happy with that. What are your thoughts?
So wait, who are you saying is in the second unit? List the names for me again, because I love the second unit we saw yesterday, but you've got to still knock someone off when you slide Jordan Poole back to the bench. So who are you saying would be your 4 or 5?
So the person that gets bumped slightly is Dante DiVincenzo. I think he can still find
interesting.
I think he can still find minutes for him, but ultimately, I think Moses Moody brings more to the table than Dante. I think if you swap Moody and DiVincenzo, I don't think you're going to experience so much of a drop-off. But I'm advocating for this because I think big picture, come April, you have to have at least Moody and Kuminga ready to go to give you real minutes in the postseason. And this solves that issue of giving them the reps to gain experience. So again, Jordan Poole is your point guard. I think Poole, to me, is best as a point guard, handling the ball, running the offense, and he showed that last night. Stephen Curry had one of his lowest usage nights of the season, and he only played 27 minutes. So Poole is your point guard, Moses Moody is your shooting guard, Kuminga as your 3, Anthony Lamb as your 4, and JaMychal Green as your stretch 5, which we talked about in the preseason. I mean, he's a large human being. He can handle the inside. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that being your second unit?
I'm still on the fence about whether or not I like Jordan Poole running the floor, because he did well last night, but I just think in previous games when he's run the floor with the second unit, and I just wonder if it's some of that extra pressure. And that's where I feel like maybe being in that starting rotation is helping him. I mean, not only does Steph Curry draw a lot of attention, but also, just taking some of the pressure off of him, because I just feel like sometimes when he's been running the point with that second unit, he's dribbling too much. He's holding the ball too long. He is forcing it. And he's not playing entirely confident and aggressive. And I feel like some of that might be just like the extra burden of knowing that that he really has to lead and create offensively with the second unit, whereas you have quite a pad with, the starters around you. And that's why it's kind of interesting when Donte DiVincenzo came back from injury, he said that he wants to be the one running the floor and then facilitating for Jordan Poole to get Poole a little bit more space, to take just some of that extra burden of having to also, really be facilitating the offense, and for him to be able to get Jordan Poole some mismatches and to create some space for him. And I don't dislike that idea either, because I just wonder if Jordan Poole, he really took advantage of being in the starting lineup because, like I said, just the less offensive load, Steph Curry taking some of the attention, versus with that really young second unit where he knows he has to carry a big load and, a big offensive burden. So that's part of the reason why I'm on the fence about having Donte DiVincenzo be in that initial, second unit, because he can run the floor, and will that help Jordan Poole in the second unit? So I don't know. So that's just some of the questions that I'm thinking, because I just have not liked Jordan Poole running the floor with a second unit while DiVincenzo was out a lot of times. I thought he was forcing it. And that's why, to me, we saw a lot of his numbers drop during the last stretch of games, on and off leading up to last night. However, I will say that I like Anthony Lamb. I actually agree with you. Anthony Lamb has grown on me. I like him. He was lights out last night shooting. 6 of 7 from the floor, 5 of 6 from 3. He was outstanding. And I also like we heard from him a little bit in post game, and Draymond Green has described him a little bit, and I've tweeted about this, but just, the mentality that he seems to have, being the first player to arrive to the gym every single day, 3 hours before practices, and to be the first person in the gym getting ready to warm up, because he says he's really been working on his shot, and it's showing on the stat sheet.
Yeah.
And that just kind of reminds me of like a Steph Curry work ethic, because Steph Curry has long been that player who's the first one in the gym and the last one to leave. And I've been to many practices where Steph Curry is there 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes after everyone else leaves, and he's still shooting. And that's how you get to be the best. So I also like that side of Anthony Lamb. So that's just where I struggle a little bit with that second rotation is DiVincenzo the odd man out. And honestly, when it comes to the play, like, to me, JaMychal Green, as we've talked about, has been someone who hasn't impressed, but they need to size if we're going to pull James Wiseman out of that second unit. So I don't know. I struggle with it because I really like Moses Moody, and I think that he should be in there too, as well as Jonathan Kuminga. But that's a good problem to have if they all keep playing as well as they played last night. Obviously, it's been rocky, so we'll see. But what about James Wiseman getting a run in the G League? I think this is great.
We'll touch on that in just a moment. And look, when we talk about Jordan Poole and the pressure, he's probably sweating a lot, right? And look, sometimes, sweat happens.
Nice segue. I like that.
Well, that's why Jordan Poole and anyone else with issues of sweat needs to try SweatBlock. SweatBlock wipes were invented by a doctor, and they're guaranteed to work, or you don't pay. That's called the guarantee, folks. They call it the SweatBlock Dry Shirt Guarantee. If SweatBlock doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. It's that simple. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try SweatBlock risk-free today. Save 20% with the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. It's also available on Amazon. Today's episode is also brought to you by RocketMoney. They are formerly Truebill, and they're all about saving you money, right? People, again, you have a lot of bills out there, right? So you might be subscribing to things you're completely unaware of. And that's where RocketMoney comes to play. They'll find those random Amazon subscriptions you're unfamiliar with, those random subscriptions to a streaming service you haven't looked at in a year. They're here to save you money so you're not wasting it. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions with RocketMoney today. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen today. After us, check out Locked On Sports today, from the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter and Instagram at Kylen Mills. James Wiseman, you were alluding to him just a moment ago. Steve Kerr announced after the game that he's going down to Santa Cruz. In fact, let's hear that soundbite from Kerr. It's right here. I have it. Talking about Wiseman's immediate plans, including the trip to Santa Cruz. Here is Kerr.
You talk about James needs minutes. The question is, could he see time in the G League soon? Or?
Yeah. So
I think
it's be good.
I think they play this weekend. I mean, do you think it could be that soon?
Yeah. He's gonna go to Santa Cruz tomorrow, and we will keep him there for an extended.
Oh man, darn it! Did I just do that? That was my bad. Hold on. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, he said that that was my bad. I'm sorry. The point is, he said that that Wiseman's going to Santa Cruz. He used the word, I think, extended period. I've heard references that it could be 10 days. I love it. If you're not going to play him, fine. Give him. He needs reps. What are your thoughts? Do you like the move?
Yeah, I like the move. Absolutely. I think the biggest thing for James Wiseman right now is getting live game action and reps in actual games. And I feel like I keep hammering this point, but before people give up on Wiseman, keep in mind that he went from playing in high school to 3 games in college and then coming in his rookie season. And honestly, he wasn't bad his rookie season as far as production goes, but he played in just north of 30 games and then tore his meniscus, had to deal with literally a horrible recovery and setback after setback. And it's just like, if you look at the last couple of years playing in 3 college games and 30 maybe NBA games, like that's just not a lot of live game action. Live game reps, he still looks like he needs a lot of work to me in what we've seen from him. And I think that the G League is the best place for him. And the Warriors have done a good job with Santa Cruz and really marrying the two programs. And Santa Cruz does a good job of trying to emulate a lot of what the Warriors do. So I think it's only going to help James Wiseman to get, more experience, not only just playing at this speed and especially it's very physical in the G League, but also just like working on the system, the Warrior system, and learning the system, because he still looks very lost to me. And like you said, if he's not going to play in NBA games, or at least not positively impact NBA games, get him some run down in Santa Cruz. I really hope it helps James Wiseman and that, he comes back and we notice an improvement. Yeah,
I agree. And in fact, the perfect example of a success story from Santa Cruz is Jordan Poole. And Poole was asked about that after the game. And here's his advice for James Wiseman.
When James goes down there, how much can he benefit from an actual extended stretch and getting into a little bit of a rhythm there? And also, what's the importance of taking the right spirit when you do? And have you talked to him? Is that something you've discussed? Like, here's the attitude and the enthusiasm you have to take when you're going to do this.
Yeah. I feel like the outside noise is what would make it tough. It's everybody's opinion. Everybody has something to say. Honestly, no one cares what they think, right? So James is just going to have to be laser focused, and I think we know that he is more than anything. And like I said, he's a special talent. He's gifted. He's humble, and he has all the right tools to be successful, And I'm going to tell him to go down there and shoot 50 shots, be aggressive, get tags, hang on the rim, do it all, right? Just so he can understand what he wants to be at the highest level. And this is just a step in that direction, and everybody in the locker room is encouraging him and has his back whenever he has questions, and he'll be good.
I agree. I think he'll be good. And Kylen, I'd love your reaction to that in just a minute. Got to give some love to PrizePicks. Have you tried PrizePicks yet, by the way?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun. It's daily fantasy made easy. And the entire premise is picking a minimum of 2 players. And it doesn't have to be the NBA. It could be any of the major sports. And it's all about over-unders, right? So Stephen Curry, for example, has been hitting the under the last 2 games because I think he scored 16 points last night. Yeah. His over-under was probably 29.5. I stayed away from that. And that's all you have to do. Literally just bet over-unders on points, rebounds, assists. It's fun. It is a lot of fun. And despite the fact that props 26 and 27 here in California failed, you can still bet on it. You can still play. Just go to PrizePicks.com. You can download the app. You could withdraw money easily. That's always one of my biggest issues with a lot of these gambling sites. They make it a pain to get your money back out. It's super easy with PrizePicks. Again, just pick 2 to 5 players. Are they going to score more? Are they going to score less? And then all of a sudden, when you're watching the game and you have money riding on these individuals, you're a lot more interested. It's a lot of fun. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 if you use the promo code Locked On. Again, if you deposit $100, they'll give you $100. If you can only afford to put in 50, they'll give you 50. It's a match. It's awesome. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter and Instagram at Kylen Mills. Your thoughts on Wiseman going to Santa Cruz and Jordan Poole's comments on it, because Poole is literally a success story after he came back from there. Your thoughts?
I think it's really important that James Wiseman is laser focused. Like Jordan Poole said, you got to block out all the noise. But I think that's something that James Wiseman is accustomed to, because Lord knows he's been under plenty of scrutiny during his tenure with the Golden State Warriors. And, I like everything that Jordan Poole said, but I think that, James Wiseman needs to do a little bit of everything, kind of like he was saying, just be aggressive, have fun, take tons of shots, hang on the rim, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think that's spot on. And this really should be a growing experience and a learning experience where you can go down there and not be afraid to make mistakes. Unlike in a Warriors game where, there are a lot more implications, and, the team going through losing streaks is a lot of pressure. You go in, you don't want to screw something up. It's like here, he should have an opportunity to just play free, like there's not the same pressure with Santa Cruz. So just go and do a little bit of everything and try to get into a rhythm. And, I hope that James Wiseman is also a success story, but I think this game action is going to be crucial for him.
Yeah, I totally agree. He was the only player last night who was a negative in the plus minus. He played garbage time minutes. And that, I think that was like the nail in the coffin in terms of him going down to Santa Cruz. But you're right. I'm with you. I still have high hopes for Wiseman. A lot of people are giving up on him, especially in the fan base. They're writing him off. I say do not do that. He's so young, like you alluded to, Kylen. He's so inexperienced. And one thing that I absolutely loved in last night's game is that those damn DNPs that are driving me up the wall were non-existent. We saw Moses Moody, 27 minutes of action. He rewarded the Warriors with 11 points, plus 14, 4 assists. He played solid defense. JaMychal Green, who was DNP for 3 games. I think he has a role in this team, and I love him as the backup center on that second unit. And he rewarded the team as well. 9 points. Had 5 rebounds. He hit a 3-pointer. But most importantly to me, Jonathan Kuminga. We were talking about this last year, Kylen. The more you play Jonathan Kuminga, the more good things happen. He is a talent. He might be raw, but he is such an incredible talent. And last night he was played 25 minutes, 15 points, a plus minus of 24. He was 5 for 8 from the field. He even grabbed 3 rebounds, which isn't a great amount, but at least he's figuring the rebounding part out. And that's one thing that I think once he gets that down, the defense will come with it. What were your thoughts on just those DNPs vanishing, and we're finally seeing the Warriors talent out there playing? Well, how did you feel about all that? Because I was exalted, thrilled. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it was fantastic to see more minutes for both Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga. You mentioned JaMychal Green. I think it's been especially crucial for Jonathan Kuminga because of something we've talked about in the past, and that I believe he's a player who needs to have more time on the floor to work through mistakes. And similar to James Wiseman, I just think like when you're looking at a 9-minute sample size, that can be a lot of pressure on a player coming in the second unit. not getting a lot of run to perform perfectly. And I think that especially Steve Kerr has had a really short chain with both Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman, where sometimes they do get pulled after making mistakes, and they know that. And it just, to me, that just adds so much pressure, and it makes it a lot more difficult for them to play their game and to get into a rhythm. And especially with young players, I feel like Jonathan Kuminga needs that extra time and extra run in the game. And I think even mentally, just knowing that, hey, you're not on such a short leash and we're going to play you a ton tonight, and that you're going to get in early in the game and you're going to get in often. I think that also just like mindset wise, that helps him play better. And I think that's exactly what we saw last night, because, getting 25 minutes in the game, I can't remember what game it was already a week or two ago. The season is flying by the way, like the games are all starting to blur together, but like 37 minutes for Jonathan Kuminga. Yeah, seriously, like what is happening? And I think that in those games that we've seen him get increased minutes, he's played better. I think there's a physical and mental aspect to that. And,
yes.
I'm not saying that I think James Wiseman is necessarily there, but I do think, like I said, sometimes just when you're only, that you're really going to be limited and you play a smaller amount of minutes, you can't make mistakes, you're on a short leash with your coach. I do think that does add some pressure. I think that Jonathan Kuminga is ready to work through that on the NBA level, whereas James Wiseman, not quite there, and he does need to get some run in Santa Cruz. So that's where I feel like the two are differentiated. But I do feel like a little bit similar in that they both are players that need to have a little bit more freedom and have more time on the floor, and to know that they're not going to get pulled right away after they make a mistake, or to know they're not going to be only in for 8 or 9 minutes where they don't want to do anything wrong. And I just think when Jonathan Kuminga has more freedom, he's looked so much better. Glad to see him getting run, and along with all of those other guys, but specifically he's one who I feel like we've needed to see more minutes from, and he's performed, if you ask me.
Absolutely. I'm totally with you. Jonathan Kuminga is someone who 5 to 10 years from now will be my favorite player in the NBA after Stephen Curry retires. He's going to be amazing. He will be lights out in this league. I really believe that. And he just needs the time, just like you said. Like, it's hard on a player when you're constantly worried that if you make one mistake, your coach is going to pull you and then you're done for the game. That's just too much pressure. I don't like that. Kuminga actually made himself available in the post game and talked about that, how hard it is to be in and out of the rotation. And Kylen, I think the game you were referring to earlier in the season was the Pelicans game. He thrived. He was fantastic in that game. So here's Kuminga after last night's game.
Just mentioned that he knows it's hard on guys whose roles are changing, obviously in or out of the rotation. You're back in it. There's been times when you haven't been in the rotation. How easy, how tough has that been to go through that?
Man, it's been tough. And I feel like it's a learning lesson. It's part of growth too. So, as long as you get the opportunity to go out there and play, you just got to go out there and do what you got to do to maintain your place in the rotation. And, man, it's been tough, but you just got to keep pushing.
What makes it tough?
I think that makes it tough is days that you're not playing. Because, as much as you're not playing, when you get thrown out there on the floor, sometimes you got to catch up with the rest of the guys that have been playing. And I feel like that's the toughest part.
Nice follow-up question there by Anthony Slater. Your thoughts on Kuminga's comments and any other thoughts you might have on him?
Of course it's tough to me. Like, none of that's surprising. Like, I can't imagine, and not just, being a fringe rotation player, but just being so young, 19, 20 years old, still, trying to break into this league. Whereas I feel like once you get some experience under your belt and you are a veteran, you understand the way that, there is an ebb and flow, and that you can work your way back into rotations just as easily as you're worked out. But, he's a young player and he's hungry. He's hungry and he's competitive. And I think that's great. And, Steve Kerr has been upfront and saying that Jonathan Kuminga is not happy on the days that he does not play, or, only is really limited to a couple minutes per game, that Jonathan Kuminga is not satisfied with that. And Steve Kerr is like, well, that's what we want. But I think it does add an extra layer of frustration because he is so young and he's really hungry to get out there and, be an impact player. And he wants to, really develop into the player that many people have expected him to be. And he wants to do it right away. And, unfortunately, there is a process to this, and both in him developing with his team and developing his individual skills. And, I think he still has to earn his way and prove himself a little bit, but he's getting there. And I think in these opportunities, when he gets to play more, as he continues to show up and he continues to perform, that trust between him and Steve Kerr is only going to grow, and he's going to continue to, really earn those minutes when the big moments matter.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And again, just a well-needed blowout victory for the Golden State Warriors. They won by 37. Mark Spears of ESPN joins me tomorrow morning. I'm really excited for that. We're going to talk about, obviously, the Warriors. He's about as insider as they get, but also his career with ESPN and then some. The Warriors, before we go, still haven't won a road game yet. They are 6-1 at home, but on the road, they're 0-7, and that's bleak. I mean, the Warriors haven't had this rough of a start on the road since 1989. So we're talking like the 90s Warriors, 2000s Warriors. It's worse than all that. So they play the Suns tomorrow. I think that's a pretty big game. I actually think the Warriors are going to try and rise up for this game, and every team is rising up for the Warriors. Should be an exciting one. What are your thoughts on the Warriors and Suns tomorrow, Kylen?
That's the thing that's been so tough for the Warriors this season, is that they have a target on their back, and every single team gets up to play the Warriors.
Yep.
They're the defending NBA champions, and that means the Warriors have to rise to the occasion every single night. They can't have an off night. They can't have even, just like slight mistakes that plague them, because they've talked about, the team has talked about a couple of the recent losses during that last road trip. They're like, we felt like we brought energy. We felt like we played well. We didn't play bad. It just wasn't enough because every other team is, ramping it up that much higher just to play us. And they have to then bring that same energy, the Warriors, to match that night in and night out. And it is a lot. As far as predictions go, I have a couple theories actually about, just like why they've been playing so bad on the road. First, you've got the youngsters who are getting a lot more run. And I think it's a little bit tougher for them on the road just because they're not veterans in this league who don't, they're still learning on how to try to maintain focus. There's a lot more distractions, a lot more external factors that come into play when, it comes time for a road trip versus being in your routine back at home. That's one of my theories, is that potentially just the young players still adapting to, getting used to being expected to play in an increased role, on the road and, trying to just deal with the environment changes. And also I've read some people have brought this theory in too, and that just, the road trips are harder on your body, and that could be a factor with some of the older players, although to me the starting lineup has been just fine in how they've played for the most part. But I mean, in general though, travel is much harder on the body, and like I said, there's much more distractions, there's external factors. They were traveling all the way to the East Coast and up and back down the East Coast, during that recent road trip. So I think the Warriors are going to figure it out. I don't have any doubt about that. I just think it's going to be tough for them to play on the road because not only of just how tough it is on the body, but also the fact that every other team is getting up for the Warriors, and their home crowd is going to get up for the Warriors, and the Warriors aren't going to walk into any, visiting venue and be welcomed with open arms. Like I said, I think also the target on their back is just an extra factor. And why the Chase Center crowd is so important. So Dub Nation, keep getting out there and cheering on the Warriors when they're at home, because I do think that the Chase Center is starting to get its own identity. I know it took some time and there was some apprehension about the transition, and now Chase Center has had a full season with fans. And, I think the Warriors enjoy playing in front of their fans. And so I think the Warriors beat the Suns, but I think it's going to be tough. However, I'm very encouraged by what we saw last night in that, like you said, the second unit, that we're really starting to have players step up and identify themselves as who should be in that rotation.
Absolutely. I'm feeling so good about that second unit. I hope Kerr sticks with that. Look, good things happen when Kuminga plays. Bottom line, good things happen when Kuminga plays. And I'm not talking 5 minutes, 9 minutes, 20 plus minutes a game. He had 25 last night. Good things happen when Kuminga plays. And I want to finish on this note. Klay Thompson. I think defensively, his on-ball defense has actually been exemplary. I think he's fine in terms of defending an opposing player who has the ball. Where he's struggled has been his off-ball defense, meaning routinely he's not playing on a string like he's supposed to. And that's a bit of a mental error, which is a little confusing to me. But you'll see it in the sense of wide open threes from opposing players, that's oftentimes Klay's guy. And that's not him like playing bad defense in the sense of not guarding your opposing player efficiently and effectively. That's him just missing assignments. That's him just not making the proper switches and not necessarily being aggressive to stick with his man when they're on the perimeter, particularly. So I hope that changes, but I still have a lot of faith in Klay. I've said from the beginning, don't hit that panic button until the 25-game mark. And I think by that 25-game mark, Klay will be fine. That is my prediction. Could be wrong. I'm not Nostradamus, but I'm very confident in Klay. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up, Kylen?
No, I agree. I hope that Klay Thompson, finally settles into a rhythm. Speaking of someone who kind of needs to let the game come to him, not force it too much. I know I mentioned that towards the beginning of the episode in regards to Jordan Poole. I think a lot of the same themes apply to Klay Thompson in just not forcing it, continuing to find open looks just in the flow of the game versus forcing shots up and difficult shots. But, it's still early, plenty of time. I know we've talked about how he still didn't quite have a normal offseason, following a pair of serious injuries. So We'll just have to see. But, last night's win was very encouraging without Klay Thompson. So I think the Warriors will be just fine.
Yeah, I think so too. So, all right, folks. Thank you so much. Kylen, thank you. Follow the program on Twitter at LockedOnDubs while Twitter still exists. And Mark Spears tomorrow morning. I'm pumped. Thanks, Kylen. Thanks, everyone. Later.